So Ryan, I want to welcome you to the show today.
Thank you, Bill.
So this is kind of cool because we just got up the innovation conversation, and one of the things we were talking about was like the role of the CIO kind of going kind of laterally across like every function of the business, from
Sure.
ops, CFO, finance, marketing, sales, etc. So it's like it spans the whole continuum. And then I've been talking about like what is the best way, how is a CIO to really approach, my slide isn't moving. Here we go. What's the best way to approach this moving forward is okay, left to right, looking at support and operations on the left, and then how are we supporting down towards, and I call it offense and defense. And so defense being more towards the left and offense being more towards the right where it's green,
Sure.
where you're scoring points and revenue and really adding new customers. And so we have a choice between playing defense and offense, and I think it's a really important one to consider, because no one's really looking at that from that angle, from a binary perspective. Like, what about just looking at it, right? Where are we aligning our efforts between our offensive capabilities, and then this role of a champion? I think is really what I'm finding during the pandemic, but really moving forward, is that the CIO is in this unique position to layer across the whole business and develop relationships and form alliances here all the way across. And I think 9 out of 10 CIOs I talk to really have a bad relationship with like marketing. It's just never really great, probably because they want to go so fast. And a lot of the CIOs are more, they're trying to make things efficient. They're more kind of aligned down here.
And all that speed costs money too, right?
Yep, and they're bouncing around and want this and that. So I'd love to get your thoughts, what you think the next 100 days would look like. Maybe this is a good framework to launch off from.
Yeah, sure. I would say next 100 days for me. So, I mean, right off the bat, we have kind of an opportunity here in kind of learning more about what the future looks like as far as work is concerned. I mean, almost every industry is getting more globalized. The world is getting smaller, right? As technology, and then obviously opportunities. Rather, this isn't the COVID-19 isn't a challenge; it's an opportunity, right? But no, as that opportunity, makes itself more clear that, hey, we have to learn how to remote work, work outside of the conference room or running down the hall to grab somebody. We have to have the ability to think about how we collaborate efficiently from wherever we are in the world. And I think that's important because the quicker we go into this COVID-19 thing, it really highlights the importance of having that dynamic ability to get things done wherever you are in the world, whatever time frame or time zone you're in. So, going forward, I think that one of the big, and we're a global company anyway, but there still is, the quote unquote need for face-to-face. And I think the importance of that is actually being, minimized at this point, and it's becoming clear that we can still get stuff done without having that face-to-face. So that's been a pretty cool kind of, I wouldn't say light bulb, because it's something that we're kind of all, getting that picture as we move forward. Whether it's dealing with an incident or dealing with some of the project work that we've been talking about and planning for some time. So I think, just kind of a different way to work has been kind of cool to see. Outside of, the next 100 days specifically, we have to get through the pandemic. Obviously, we have to make sure everyone's healthy and safe. And then once business kind of returns as normal, and the states and really the governments across the globe open up and say, all right, folks can get back to work, which I think is going to be a slow burn. It's not going to be something that just the flip of a switch kind of deal. There's going to be some gradual kind of easing back into things. But I think once that is kind of complete, everyone's back in the office and healthy. I think that the stability of our systems will still be the number one priority, along with security. I mean, we're seeing that security challenges continuing, in fact, growing in some cases. From as people either take advantage of remote work, or certainly there's been no decrease in the amount of whether it's malware or viruses or phishing attempts, et cetera. So I think against the two key things that come to my mind are continued or sustained stability of the platform, and then obviously a continued eye on security. Those are the two things I think we'll continue to look at. Those aren't new or rocket science there when it comes to technology, but those are the two things I think we'll continue to look at as we move forward here.
So it's interesting, the stability of systems, because now I've often been saying that we've been working on the digital agility that comes from being able to rapidly recover from a ransomware or some type of a network takedown due to a virus or a DDoS attack or something. There's some, and it's funny how we use the same words digitally as we do biologically, viruses and infections and stuff like that. And then we always want to create a resilient, enterprise. And so you talk about stability of systems and such. And then we're in this biological problem right now with COVID. So, and the thing is it's made us less. We figure out that we're kind of vulnerable. Like, we're not as resilient as we thought we were. Maybe our systems are more resilient than we are as humans from this point of view. But what does stability mean for you and your systems when you say stability? That's a big word.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're the company I work for is a global card processing company. So every minute or every second that we're down, there's a dollar figure associated because we expect X number of transactions, to process. And if those transactions aren't processing, our partners aren't happy, and thus, there is a direct correlation with revenue there, as far as the number of transactions. Now, obviously, those numbers are down because we're, people aren't traveling, people aren't shopping, people aren't, eating at restaurants, staying in hotels, et cetera. So that's generally, globally, our business is the tourist and hospitality, food and beverage market. So while there's some, it's actually a good time to do some of the things we had planned as far as, care and feeding of systems. That said, we have to maintain the uptime of those platforms. So when I say stability of the platform, I'm talking about our production environment, which is different from our operations environment, where we do reporting and emails and file storage and collaboration and all that stuff. That's all what we consider operations. Even UAT and dev and all that stuff is all non-production, right? And then the production environment is just our card payment processing environment. So that is always the number one priority for us. And then again, everything else is kind of second tier behind that. So specific answer to that question is the card processing environment needs to be up and running at all times. And what we're doing kind of in this quote unquote low volume time is I've been a bit of a reprioritize around what are some of the projects that we had queued up for 2020, even 2021. And can we do some of that stuff in this, again, quote unquote low volume time and take advantage of, again, we can't take anything down because business is still operating regardless of where we are, where our partners are across the globe. But because of this low volume time, can we shift resources around and make some of the resources work extra hard while we take things offline and do some upgrades and perform maintenance against some of that stuff. So I guess that answers kind of covers a couple of topics, but stability is a priority, has been, always will be, though in this low volume time, can we get stuff done that we had kind of queued up?
What leadership qualities or things that you haven't had to deploy over the past 5 or 10 years in your career, now you find yourself kind of having to reach into the well to doing things that, or experiencing things you wouldn't necessarily have been called on to do?
Yeah, so I've always been, my guys probably could they probably have some sort of game for however many times I say collaboration, and someone probably gets $1 or something, But I'm super, big on collaboration. And that, just to kind of segue for a sec, a few minutes ago, we were talking about folks, some CIOs and technology leads that don't get along, or, have challenges with marketing or sales or whoever it is. And listen, that, whether it's relational or just, those roles typically don't get along. I wholeheartely can appreciate that. But from my seat, from my perspective, I always find that, leading off with humility is something that goes so far. And when you go into, a challenging relationship, whether it's a meeting or something like that, if you can start with that, it always puts the other person on the defensive a little bit. Not that you want to play offense versus defense, but a lot of times, having that kind of in your bag of tricks is a very helpful thing. So if you can kind of, with the dose of humility, a lot of times that'll set the conversation and the relationship off to a good start. You have a good foundation. So getting back to kind of, I guess, even humility as it relates to leading teams and specifically in these times, collaboration's always been huge, and obviously that's much easier when you're sitting across the table, whether it's a conference room table or a lunch table, with your team, with your whether it's a peer or subordinates or teams. So the bit of a challenge has been, okay, how do we still maintain that level of interaction, close collaboration, discussing and keeping things open. It's not I'm the boss, you do what I say. It's got to be this back and forth, this discussion. Now ultimately there has to be a point where, all right, enough discussion. Let's make a decision to move forward with X, Y, Z. But generally, I've always felt that better served with face-to-face discussions, even with global stuff. We try to do. I travel a decent amount globally, so having those opportunities is great. Even when we are remote, that's why I'm kind of always preaching about video conferencing. I think that's so important. Is at least you can do read body language and things like that. But what I've kind of been doing around that is more frequent, quick touch bases. We've done virtual happy hours and virtual lunch meetings, and where everyone just grabs their lunch. And because of the global nature of the business, it's like global lunch for some people, global breakfast for others, and global dinners for others. So it's, hey, let's grab coffee, grab a glass of wine, depending on the time of day it is, and let's just catch up. And sometimes it's not even work stuff. It's hey, what books are we into now? What's happening with your kids? Even if it's a small group versus a town hall, we had 170 people on, where obviously you can't have those discussions globally or in that kind of setting, but you can at least talk about things in a less formal manner. So again, collaboration is just done differently now. It has a different spin on it now. Not to say you can't do it, because you still have to have that level of interaction, whether it's one-on-one, team-wide, or globally, across the entire organization.
Are you using any particular tools that are finding productive for you, like within, are you using the standard Zoom type stuff, or have you run into other stuff?
So we're a Microsoft platform, so we've got we've been using Skype and we actually had a project for 2020 that was going to take advantage of Microsoft Teams. So we had that about a third of the way rolled out. So we've expedited that, and we're actually still in the process of completing that. Some of the, when we first went remote, there was kind of the shadow IT was in full force. People were using everything from Zoom to, go to meetings to, there whatever free FaceTime, I think in some cases, so
Right.
we tried to we pulled that together and said, hey, this is the only thing we're going to support. And this is the only thing that we will, recommend from a, from a security perspective. So please, if you are going to use House Party with whatever colleague you want, have at it. But number one, we're not going to support you, and two, please don't discuss any company related activities in that forum. These are the only accepted platforms. So again, the Microsoft collaboration suite, so Office 365 and the Teams has been a big win for us. We're still in the middle of an acquisition. It's 18 months going now, but that's kind of held us back a little bit in full collaboration, because some groups and resources are still using this platform on whatever, whether it's old version of SharePoint versus the cloud version of SharePoint. So that's held us back a little bit, but
Sure.
honestly, that's one of the projects that we said, hey, that was slated to go to 2021, but we've made it, reprioritization of some of the things. We're pushing back some of our capital expenses and expenditures and projects thus. And we've moved some of the things that, aren't going to cost us anything but resources and time. We've moved that to a priority, to more of the forefront. And that's one of the efforts, is kind of an Active Directory consolidation effort that's, globally.
Yeah.
Validation across the board. So, yeah.
Yeah. Is that, are you finding that Active Directory and your use of, for your global folks, are you using, have you found like use of conditional access or Azure AD useful as far as being able to connect your globe together from a directory structure?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think we're too far down we're actually still using on-premise domain controllers and whatnot. So there's still kind of like I said, kind of a hodgepodge that we've got going on. But, the folks that are onto the Office 365 and Azure, cloud authentication, I've actually gotten unsolicited emails from various folks saying, hey, this is awesome. This is great. So yeah. It's kind of cool in that, you usually don't get those kinds of emails, but it's pretty cool to get that from a technology project. And, people are appreciative of the fact that we had very little issues moving from, in office to remote work. And again, we're a global company, so a lot of folks do the remote stuff anyway. But as far as supporting all of our users, very little access issues and all, we got some kudos for that as well. So that was cool to see. And it's good when your people appreciate, when non-tech folks appreciate the tech folks, because the tech folks can see that and they can see that, hey, what they're doing is really important. So it's always.
Is it time for someone was in a conversation said this is the time where IT really cashes in their chips?
Amen. Amen. Yeah.
Build all that equity, right?
That's right. Yeah. Gotta fill the bucket up while we can.
Because God, when it comes back around, IT's back on the hot spot again, the hot seat.
Yeah, absolutely. All you guys are is a cost center.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. That's great. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I think the parts about some of the collaboration options that you have with lunches and happy hours, and talking, some of these leading off with humility, I think is a really interesting strategy, Ryan. It's disarming for folks.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, if it's done from the right space, it's very very powerfully effective. But the person doing it has to be really, and of course you are, but he has to be really strong in their sense that like they can't be dominated, but they're not trying to be dominated. It's just they're being who they are, and they're not ready for a fight. They don't care about the fight. They just want to help get the business, move it forward. And I think
that's
real
exactly the
opportunity.
message. Yeah, I'm sorry. Just to elaborate on that, that's exactly the message, because a lot of times I'll go into the meeting saying, hey, your email address is the same as mine except for the first name, right? So ultimately, we have the same goal here, right? We're not against each other. We're not trying to, my team isn't against your team. So, and you don't have to say that, right? You can present that mindset, that collaborative mindset by, your agenda, even starting with your agenda. When you're talking about a meeting agenda, it's not, well, whose fault was why we're here. That doesn't matter, right? Okay, something happened. This is what we're going to try to do to forecast to fix it. That kind of collaborative mindset in almost everything you do, and it really has broken down. I mean, honestly, when the merger completed, there was remarks from the company that joined our company that was, wait, technology does that? Like, you guys are willing to step, to reach out across boundaries and do that kind of stuff. And it was like, yeah, like, why wouldn't we? We're on the same team. We're not, like you said earlier, offense, defense, it's still the same team. Ultimately you're fighting the same, common goal, common enemies, I'll say, even though it's a competitor, right? So, you're not fighting against each other. You're fighting the same common cause. So, anyway.
It's I think there's a unique opportunity for IT leaders to develop these. We talk about collaboration, but I'm writing a note down here. A collaborative mindset is different than a collaborative tool. You can still have excuse my language, collaboration mindset, but have a great tool. And I didn't really make that connection until you made that point. I think that's a really profound point, because I think when companies are fat and happy, and like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until I punch him in the face. This is like our metaphorical punch in the face. But where are the unusual collaborations internally within the company that not only would you, the leader, benefit from, but also the business would benefit exponentially, because the two leaders were able to Zoom connect or Teams connect with themselves 45 times to develop a unique collaboration that morphed into new revenue, new opportunities for customers, partners, vendors, whoever. Really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is the time to, I love that quote from Mike Tyson. You don't hear him being quoted in the boardroom too often, do you?
I think every boardroom's going to have that.
Exactly. No, we're certainly living in unprecedented times, and those that try to stick to regimented ways and the old way of thinking is just not going to be successful, or they might, but it certainly won't be as successful as they could be if you have transparency, humility, collaboration. Again, like you said before, getting away from some of the, let's not think about static tools, let's think about mindsets and how you approach a problem, right, rather than what you need to do to actually fix the problem. If you have that right mindset prior to getting there, you're halfway through the battle. I saw a cool quote recently, and it sounds like you are a quote guy as well. I think they're really applicable. Your problem isn't the problem; it's your attitude about the problem. Right. So,
who was that? Who's that from? Who's that?
I will find out and let you know, because I have it written down somewhere.
That's great. I'm writing it down.
Yeah. I'll share that with you. That's a good one. So. Yeah.
Ryan, listen, I hope we get a chance to meet soon, and I wish you and your family the best of health through this, and we'll get connected soon after this gets all sorted out.
Yeah, sounds good, Bill. I appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out. Look forward to syncing up.
Okay, take care.
All right, thanks.